Hello, yeah, I had a pretty darn similar take on almost all of it. It's actually a consensus there. I definitely was impacted by the Alps and Switzerland part. I'd never really heard about lack of permafrost affecting like geological stability. I'd never seen that before as a cause for landslides. I mean, it makes a lot of sense now. I'm like, oh, duh, but I'd never seen that before, and that was like something to me that I was pretty interested to learn. I mean, most of the stuff was like fairly beginner, or not necessarily beginner, but like stuff that's pretty well known nowadays. If you're like a younger person, like under like 40 and like somewhat aware of the climate, it was like yeah, it's sea levels are rising. It seemed like a lot of the documentary was definitely towards people who are like it's not real or people who just aren't very aware of it. But that part I wasn't aware of, and I was very interested in learning about that. I actually did some research other than it about it because I have a buddy who's Swiss, and he was saying that he's seen it in his village in Switzerland, and how it's actually like a pretty big problem in the Alps and some other regions too. Because I was curious about it in our mountains here, because we're pretty similar in climate to a lot of the regions of the Alps, where we also have glaciers that are receding, permafrost that's never there anymore. So I was interested if that's impacting our landslides, and I couldn't find too much about it, which is unfortunate. I also was interested with your solutions. The China choosing to go climate neutral, or I guess carbon neutral, I meant to say, phase out coal, oil, and gas, or the U.S. I thought was good. Obviously, it's great. Promises are great, but the U.S. has missed like four marks now. We were like carbon neutral by 2022 or some stuff like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and we've been pushing back our marks further and further. Oil and gas companies are still going strong, still reeling in the big bucks. So I think until we put a damper on that, we're probably not going to see a huge change or impact. I mean, like the promises are great. Don't get me wrong, but they're just promises until they happen. Especially with like big countries like U.S. and China. When we pledge to go carbon neutral, it really just means like the carbon buybacks and like carbon credits and a bunch of weird stuff. I mean, obviously there's positive changes we do make whenever we make those pledges, like catalytic converter back in the day. Like great changes have been made along this journey, but I'm always a little bit hesitant when it comes to the promises, especially by uh, countries like the U.S. and China, where we both have huge vested interests in not doing that. Like those are our profits, and we're both capitalist countries, so it's unlikely that we'll go too far in that direction. I also thought the synthetic palm oil was cool, and also the fabric stuff. I thought that was pretty trip. I was interested in both of those about like how feasible they were for mass production, any possible downsides, like what are the materials of the fabric. It looked kind of like plastic based to me. I was wondering if it was biodegradable, what the manufacturing cost was, because if you're doing a bunch of carbon in the manufacturing, are you really offsetting anything? So I was curious about that stuff. And yeah, I've also noticed that the droughts in the lakes, it's like insane. I used to go up and swim in all the mountain lakes, in the lakes, we used to go to Lake Chelan every year when I was really little, so weird memories came back. And I saw a picture of it, and it's just like way low. Place we used to be is like, it's like there's a beach now, and it used to be over the water. It's just like dropped 10, 15 feet. Some of the lakes in Washington you couldn't even swim at because they were so low that you could contaminate it because the water volume was so low. Like people would threaten everything. And it was like insane. You'd see like a picture of a boat ramp, and then like 60 feet down, there's water. And you're like, what? So I also have noticed that a lot. And then also the air quality, of course. I mean, anyone who grew up here probably doesn't remember that as a kid. And I was kind of wondering, like, oh, did I not realize it? And like looked it up and just, oh, it wasn't a thing when we were kids. Now it's kind of hosed like it is. So yeah, I agreed with you on a lot of that stuff. Thank you.